Are you struggling to find the ghost room and guess the ghost type? Do you keep getting absolutely hurt by demons, poltergeists, revenants, all the ghosts, and need some advice? Well, don't worry because I've got you fam. We're gonna get into this. Stay tuned. Hey there, I'm Sakura, and today I'm gonna be giving you guys my very best tips for Phasmophobia. Whether you are a beginner or you just need some advice because you're struggling, I've got you, and we're gonna put it down into 3 key areas here. The first thing I want to talk about is the ghost room and how to find it. The second thing I want to talk about is identifying the ghost and how you can make that easier and less time consuming on yourself. And the third thing I'll be talking about today is how to prepare for a hunt. What do you do? How do you know where to put the crucifixes? How do you use the smudge sticks effectively? And where do you go? Like, how do you know where to hide? That kind of stuff. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into number 1, the ghost room and how to know it's the ghost room. I'm sure you already know this, but I need to make it clear that finding the ghost room is the most important thing that you need to do, and if you get this wrong, it can have some serious consequences. Realizing that you've been trying to detect in the wrong room for too long will cost you and your sanity and maybe even your life. In game, of course. So, my tips for finding the ghost room are as follows. For smaller maps, always go in with the EMF first, because the EMF will detect any ghost activity, which will lead you in the right direction of the building much faster. Finding the general area of the building will set you off at a much better start. The next thing is to notice where items are thrown or appliances are switched on. Now, ghosts can throw stuff and they can turn things on in rooms other than the ghost room, but the more that something happens in one room, the more you can be sure that it is the ghost room. The next thing to pay attention to is your breath. Now, it's not always an indicator that it is the ghost room, but it is a sign if you have other things going on in that room as well. If you just see your breath in that room and nothing else is happening, assume that it's not that room. If you're lucky enough that your ghost has orbs as their evidence, then the orbs will be in the ghost room. This is an absolute. This will always be the case. If there are orbs in a room, that is the room. And in fact, any room where there is evidence, you can be sure that it's the right one, unless it is the EMF below number 5, dots, and UV, because ghosts can go around in a whole area and touch many doors, and the dots just shows you where the ghost is at the time, so that's not necessarily showing you what room they're in. Now, not all ghosts will be big on haunting, but if you happen to see the ghost, take note of where it spawned. This clue alone, however, does not guarantee that you found the room either, just again, if it is in conjunction with other signs. Where you see them spawn does mean something, however, and I will get into that later. For larger maps, your EMF and your hearing are your best tools if you want to go in with just the basic equipment. But I would highly recommend buying the parabolic microphone to narrow down the area of the building. Just follow the direction of any sounds, phones ringing, water, noises, voices, anything that you hear that is more than just general atmosphere and things clanging that you just hear all the time. The only downside is that you need to be close by for it to be picking up sounds, so you will still need to be walking around the building. You just don't have to go in every single room, which is nice. Going in the high school by yourself or the prison by yourself takes forever, so it will help narrow things down. My last tip is that you can always try looking at the cameras already set up in the van to look for orbs or any activity. If you spot a door opening, if you turn the power on and go back to the van to study the cameras, do any lights turn on, that kind of thing. But this technique is very limited by the camera placement of each building. It's different for each one, of course, and most of the cameras are in the hallway, so if you don't have a hallway ghost, you're not going to see much. And of course, it would be highly dependent on if the ghost has orbs as evidence. It might be fruitless looking, but hey, at least your sanity won't be going down whilst you're in the van. Alright, now on to section 2. So I know that Phasmophobia has come a long way and it has a lot more ghosts now than it used to, but don't even think about that. Don't worry about that. Don't be overwhelmed by that in any kind of way, because all you need to focus on is getting that evidence. The book will narrow it down for you. You won't need to check all the pages. I'm sure you've noticed this at this point if you played already. You can also cancel out what you don't think the evidence is if you are absolutely sure, then cancel stuff out and it will narrow it down what the ghosts are for you. But anyways, once we've discovered the ghost room, it's now time to get to work. It's time to use our tools. Drop the tools that you've brought in, go back to the van, and now next, ideally you want to be bringing in the tools that will take some time for you to get some results. At the start of playing Phasmophobia, you'll be given a really rubbish thermometer, like rubbish, okay? So I recommend taking that in first because it takes so long. The reading takes ages. So bring that in, and I would also bring in the ghost book as well place the ghost book where you got the most activity, leave the thermometer in the room, and go back to the van once more. If whilst you were in there you notice the ghost has been touching doors and windows, you might have fingerprints. So taking the UV torch along with the video camera, feel free to look for orbs and check with your other equipment whilst you're waiting to hear for them to move another door, or you can go ahead and try and look at the door straight away if it has just happened. After checking the room for orbs, set up the video camera on a table facing the doorway of the room or facing towards where you get the most activity. Just make sure it's facing an area where you think the ghost will be walking by. Next, bring in the dots projector and the spirit box. Have a look first with the dots to see if you can see an outline of the ghost in the doorway where you've seen the most activity. Once you've had a quick look, set the dots projector up directly in front of your video camera, switched on so it is also facing the doorway or the area of activity. Next, try and speak to the ghost in the spirit box. If you don't have your mic plugged in, that should be fine. The ghost will talk anyway, it's just you'll want to leave the spirit box on the floor and wait. If you have a mic and you're scared of making noises during a hunt, just simply mute after asking questions. It's also important to note that you will see better with the dots machine if the lights are completely out, including your torch, and the spirit box will only work if used in the dark. You can use your torch whilst using the spirit box, just not the main lights. So by this point, you should have all the basic equipment inside the ghost room and have at least one piece of evidence. If you don't, or if your only evidence is UV or dots with no sign of getting any more, assume that you're in the wrong room and start the process of looking for the room again. If you do discover that you're probably in the wrong room, it's irritating, but the sooner you realize this, the better. A special note that I would like to make is about getting EMF 5. It can be a bit of a bugger. Some ghosts are very, very unwilling to give it up, so I would leave it on at all times and put it in the area where you're getting most activity and just do everything else. If you hear the EMF going off louder, check it because it might be a 5. Once you've checked for all other bits of evidence, if you've got 2 bits of evidence and one of them left over could be EMF, pick it up and just start walking around following the ghost. Any items that it manipulates, any doors that it touches, just follow it around and try and get a reading. If the ghost haunts you and you physically see it and you do not get an EMF 5, it's unlikely that EMF 5 is the evidence that you're after. Although sometimes you might get a 4 and then other times randomly you might get a 5. It's quite temperamental, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a little annoying. But I will say that there's been too many times where I just needed one more bit of evidence and I've learned it's pretty safe to assume that it's EMF if nothing else is giving and you've been in there a while. Okay, now getting into the third section, preparing for a hunt. What to do? Now, I've learned over the years that it's more of a preference with what you want to do during a hunt, as well as obviously the objectives. Like the objectives that you're given for each map, they might say they want you to use the crucifix, they might want you to use the incense sticks during a hunt. It depends on whether you want to be activating the hunt or not. But ideally, if you have these objectives where you need to be starting the hunt to get extra money, you want to find the evidence for the ghost first. Make it your top priority to know what the ghost is. But yes, so signs that you're about to be hunted and what to do. So the first sign that you're in danger of a hunt starting is if your sanity level is getting closer to 60. I would advise you to take in 2 lots of medication when you're first getting started, no matter what size the map. The medication will give you some more time to find the evidence, which, as I say, is the most important thing to do. Knowing what the ghost is before getting into a hunt situation is always the best thing to do because you can read about the ghost and know what to expect. It is always a learning curve because there are so many of them, but just read their description and you will get an idea of what they will do during a hunt, whether they're going to be quiet, whether they're going to be faster, things like that. The second sign you need to look out for is sometimes the ghost will go very, very quiet suddenly after a lot of activity. They won't be throwing things anymore, and it will almost seem like the ghost just isn't in the building. And then other times they will be haunting you obsessively, constantly, because they're trying to lower your sanity and they're getting ready to hunt you. If they are haunting you and showing themselves, keep note of all the places that they do this, because that will be very important. Some more signs to look out for are you will hear the front door lock, or you won't be able to unlock any doors. So if you're in the asylum, you won't be able to unlock the doors that are leading from one corridor to the next as well. You may see flashing lights, like something is moving towards you if the lights are on, say like in the high school and you see the lights seemingly moving towards you, but you don't see anything else because some ghosts are not visible, or some do what I call phase walking, when you can see them for a second and then they disappear. You can't see them. Other ghosts, you can just see them the entire hunt. And the final thing is that you won't be able to interact with light switches during a hunt. This is actually a very useful one because if you're hiding in a room and you can't turn the light on, you know not to leave that room and come out of hiding. Okay, on to crucifixes. So crucifixes are very, very handy when you know how to use them and when you're dealing with particularly more aggressive ghosts because they prevent hunts. So why I've been saying it's so important to remember where you physically see the ghost stood or where they started walking to you from. When you see the ghost stood physically somewhere, that is a spawning point where they will start a hunt. And the more of these spawning points that you uncover, the better off you're going to be because you know where not to be when you think a hunt is coming. You know where not to stand. You know where not to try and hide. And it's just really important to pay attention to these signs when they give them to you. As mentioned previously, these spawning points are scattered around the area and not just in the ghost room. So it's very important that we know. Please note the crucifixes that you get at the start may be completely useless because sometimes after one hunt, that's it. They're gone. The ones you get given at the beginning of the game give you between 1 and 2 uses of blocking a hunt, so make sure that once one has been used up, you keep that in mind. The max number of crucifixes that you can bring in is 2, so you need to be very careful about where you use them. The most likely places that you're going to get hunted are in the ghost room, but also you want to make sure that your exit to get away is also not blocked off. Now, if you don't want to or you can't spend the money, and even if you do spend money, know your hiding spots. Once you've discovered the ghost room, plan a few hiding places out before the ghost gets aggressive. You don't want to be fucking around trying to find a hiding place during the hunt. Some cupboards, like even if you know where a cupboard is, you don't know if there's going to be stuff in there. You don't know if you're going to be able to get to it in time. So always, always, always plan a few hiding places out. And make sure you change these as you go, as you learn where the ghost might spawn during a hunt. Adjust your hiding places accordingly. Alright, the last thing, incense sticks, or smudge sticks as they used to be called. These babies can save your fucking ass, but usually you are not holding them when you need to be. It's just how it is. So you want to have them in the house, in the room with you, keep them nearby. And know that if you are holding matches, you do not have to drop those because if you're holding matches, that becomes your 4th item that you're holding. So you do not have to drop those ever. So you can just put the smudge stick down and in a moment's panic, pick that up. You don't have to fumble around finding that and the matches, which is very nice now because it used to be not the case. So smudge sticks or incense sticks will repel the ghost from you during the hunt, so make sure you use it at the opportune moment. Don't use it too early, don't use it too late. It will give you a chance to hide. So make sure when you're using it, lead the ghost towards a certain way that you don't want them to be, use the smudge sticks, and go to that hiding place that you're thinking of. If you don't need to do a hunt during your objectives, then you shouldn't really need to get to this point where you're using smudge sticks. You should be able to just hide. They're more of a backup plan if you feel like you have cornered yourself or if you need to do it to get extra money. The key thing to remember is to always switch off your flashlight during a hunt because the ghost will see it and they will follow you. So only use it sparingly to know what direction you're walking in, but otherwise just turn it off. Okay, well, that is everything. So that was probably quite a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and how I laid it out and everything. It's my first video like this. But yeah, I hope those tips are really helpful for you. And yeah, let me know how you get on. Let me know if things get better for you, if you start understanding the game better. I think also just the more you play it, the more you will understand. But yeah, I really hope these tips help you to make some progress and actually get that money in and level up and get the better equipment. It's harsh when you first start. It is harsh. But yeah, if you're still struggling after taking all of these tips on board, then I'll see what else I can do. There are some more things that I could probably give you guys as tips, like bonus tips, but otherwise I think I've pretty much covered everything, and I'm hoping that what I've said, that's going to be good enough and you guys are going to be getting those results. Let me know if you have any questions and I'll answer them in the comments. If there's anything that I wasn't quite clear about, just let me know. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything. I'm pretty happy with what I've done here. But yeah, alright, stay spooky, not gloomy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.